people join as we're going. That's good. So what we're going to go over today are press releases, a couple housekeeping things before. Savannah had sent out the applications for officers for next semester. When are we going to be going over those, Savannah?
They're due today. I'll have to double check, but last time I checked, we'd only had like 3 or 4 people apply for any jobs. So we still have a lot of positions open, but that'll be probably something that we'll have to cover at the board meeting today, and we can discuss those options, and then we may have to extend it or figure out a plan B based on that information.
Okay, but they're still open as of right now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if any of you guys are interested in any of the positions, please apply for those. You have to apply separately for each position. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and get started on press releases. So a little bit about press releases, why we send them. So the main reason is to get media coverage. It's all about getting publicity for our clients, whoever they may be. It's a way to build brand reputation, and also it can be used in crisis communication if there's a crisis going on within the company. So some of the different times we would send a press release. A lot of what we do in Pyramid, you're going to be sending them for our clients' events. So like with Pyramid, so for Fierce, we did a press release on their musical. For the Wellness Center, we did one on their suicide prevention walk. So those are the normal ones you're going to be dealing with in PRSSA. However, there's other reasons, such as different news announcements within the company. Maybe they're doing a partnership or they're hiring some new CEO. If there's product launches, that's another reason. Awards, partnerships, I kind of already said, and then crisis management, which crisis management in itself is a whole nother sector of PR that is very detailed and has a lot to do with how to navigate when you have a crisis in a company. So some of the different things that we're going to see when you're making a press release is you're going to have your headline, your contact info, your location for where it's at, your body copy. So the main copy of your press release. And the way you're going to style your press release when it comes to your body copy is you're going to use the inverted pyramid where it's the most important information up top. That way, in case you send it to a newspaper and they don't publish the entire thing, they just publish, let's say, the first 2 paragraphs, they have the most important information to publish. They don't have to worry about reading or publishing all of it. And then at the bottom, most of the times there's going to be a boilerplate, which is just general info on the organization, whoever it may be. So I have pulled up a example, excuse me, of a press release we did for Pyramid. This was from the past summer. So most of our press releases we use in Pyramid and PRSSA, this is how we format them. So on the left side, you're going to have your contact info. It's going to say Pyramid, your name, your email address. Underneath that, you're going to say news release, the date, and then for immediate release if you want it to go out immediately. If you're sending it early and you don't want it to go out right away, you can put for release on and then put whatever date you want. On the right side, I personally like to put the logo of whatever our client is. So for this one, it was CFFR. So I just have their logo up there. That way, I send it to a newspaper. If they want, they can save that picture and then they can also publish that as well. Below that, you're going to find your headline, which is right here. And then underneath the headline, I normally put like a subheading. So a little bit about whatever the event is. So for this one, it's the Community Fun and Fitness Relays. Underneath it, I have a little bit about what that event is. That way, maybe the newspaper I send it to is like, that's not really something our readers would want to read. They can see enough from just that. They don't have to read the entire press release. Below this, we get into our body of our press release. Right here is what I was talking about when I said location. So for ours, they're going to be in Carbondale. It could be New York, St. Louis, I mean, wherever. A lot of times, if it's a large company, they will put wherever the corporate headquarters are for the announcement, even if maybe a person in St. Louis wrote it, but the corporate headquarters is in New York. It would still most likely say New York. And it would go to newspapers in New York or media in New York, but it would also maybe go to media in St. Louis as well, since there is a location for the company there. So it has a much wider media strategy there. Along with that, we get into our copy. So your first paragraph is going to be, if it's an event, you're going to say who the event's for, where it's at, date and time. So like this one, it says what day it is, where it's at, what time it's starting, how to register. Next, include information about the event that you think is particularly relevant. For this one, I talked about the different participant groups. So like who would participate in the event. And at the very bottom is the boilerplate, so to say, for this one, which has what the organization is, who runs it, and who benefits from it. So for this one, it's a charity. So it benefits orphanages out in Ghana and West Africa, and then the I Can Read program in Carbondale. So it talks about those. Also, you want to include any partners or sponsors for the event. So I just have that as a separate one. It's a very small one. It doesn't have to be super detailed. If they provide certain things like Kroger donated some amount of food, okay, you can put that, but if you not, you can just put Kroger, and whoever else donated or partnered. At the very end, you always want to put, if you're interested in learning more about whatever the press release is about, who they can contact, and the website too. And then if they have any immediate inquiries, who they can call, since sometimes email is not always the fastest. Something also very important to know when you're doing press releases is they're not always a page long. They can be more than one page. Most of the ones we are going to do are going to be a page long. I think the longest one we've done is like a page and a half. So at the very end of your press release, you're going to do this little dash with the 3 hashtag sign and another dash, and that means that it's the end of the press release. Now, if it goes on to another page, you're going to have a dash, more dash, and then it goes on to the next page. Whenever you're in it, you have to make sure you're using this, because that's when a journalist or whoever's reading it knows if it's stopping. That's the main gist of it. I can show you a couple of other ones that we've done in the past. Does anybody have any questions while I'm pulling these up?
That meeting that we have to go to, is there, wait, is it a meeting for PRSSA or is it for Pyramid after this?
Oh, that's just for eBoard. That's not for Pyramid or PRSSA.
Oh, okay. What's eBoard?
The executive board. So like me, Savannah, Madeline, Colby, Erica, and Kiki. So we're the officers. So that's who that is.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So here's another example of a press release. Same format, contact, immediate release. The logo, headline, subheading, your body, following the same exact format. This one is longer, and I did switch up the formatting a little bit because this one was more important, talking about the partners compared to the other one, which it was not as important about. Let's talk about those. So this one had multiple events. So it was a week-long event, so it would go on. This one goes to the second page, and then again, we end with pound signs. So that's the main gist of a press release for the most part. It will vary depending on where you're at. So the formatting and stuff can differ if you're at certain agencies or certain corporations. They might have you formatted a little differently, but the content is pretty standard across the board. Your body copy is always going to be the inverted pyramid. The most important stuff needs to be up at top. And for larger corporations, you're going to see those boilerplates at the very bottom, which are the background info on the company and where to find more info. Those are a lot more prevalent for corporations and agencies than they are for those that we write in pyramid. So yeah. Justin, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I think maybe the one thing I would say is, some of you have experience writing press releases. Some of you have had internships out in the public and everything. So do any of you have some like kind of real world experience in addition to Haven's, that maybe little tips or tricks or incidents that you've had you would like to share with everyone? Maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any experience. I don't want to just
Yeah, I
not
don't
say anything.
either. Sorry.
Yeah.
I only have one from
I
class.
didn't mean to sandbag you, but yeah.
I guess what I would add is just some experience working from both sides, both from doing PR and doing more kind of traditional journalism. So from a journalistic perspective, when I would receive press releases, I wanted them to be really, really clear about what was new and different, right? So if it's for an event, that's pretty clear what's new and different, right? Like there's an event coming up or something. But if it was, let's say, you just sending out a press release about your company, sometimes those aren't really clear and about what's different, what's new. Like sometimes people will start off talking about the company and how successful it is. And if I'm a journalist and they're reading that, I'm like, okay, so what? And not to sound like mean about it, but that's the reaction that I have often. It's like, okay, well, so what? Well, like, what is new? Why do I care about this, right? Good for your company, but why do I care? So I think getting, that's through the headline that Haven talked about, but it's also, she talked about the inverted pyramid, like getting straight to the, those of you who've had me in class about this, the who, what, when, where, why, like right away, so that it's clear what's new and different. The other thing I would add is that I was talking to a friend that works in PR last night. And one of the things that she was talking about is that she often gets pressure from her organization to put out press releases about everything that happens. And like they're like, here's this. Why don't you put this out as a press release? Here, why don't you, here's a photo, here's some information for a press release. And she was saying that one of the things that she's had to get good at is being able to tell people, no, we're not putting this out as a press release. And the reason why is not because she's mean or, controlling or anything like that. It's because she sees the value in, she sees the potential value, right, in having a good relationship with the press, so that when they see a press release come in from her, they know it's worthwhile, right? And so that she's not overloading them with something new every single day. And she wants them to be sure that when they get a press release from her, it's going to be worth their time actually writing that up as a news story and everything. So that's just some kind of additional experience from people doing it in the field and from both sides of it, of thinking about not just how to format a press release, but like maybe when and how you'd want to do a press release.
Yeah, one thing you'll learn about public relations is it's all about your relationships with the media, who you have good relationships with. It's going to depend on, those that you talk to or you have those good relationships with, they're going to be more willing to publish your press releases. And one tip that I normally do with Pyramid is we will send out a press release. We normally send it out with a flyer or some other brochure or something like that. And we normally try to send these out about a month in advance of the event. Sometimes 2 months, it just kind of depends. And I always try to have 2 points of contact with whoever I'm sending it to. So if I send it to them at the beginning of the month, let's say I don't hear from them, the event's not until middle of next month. If I don't hear from them, I'm going to reach back out at the end of the month and be like, hey, I just wanted to keep you updated on this event. Here's the information. So that also helps, making sure that you're keeping up to date and you're making sure you're keeping up with those contacts. That's also very important. I don't really have anything else. Does anybody have any questions about what we went over, whether it's the format or what you need to actually put into a press release, anything like that?
Some of you are, younger, you haven't taken some of the more advanced PR classes and everything. And I think Haven did a good job explaining, this is to get press attention, to get yourself covered in the press. And I think one thing I would just kind of expand on what she said is that, this is a standardized way of communicating with the press. This is the standardized format that they expect, right? So it's not, sometimes people go, well, you're making this seem very standardized and very like a formula and why. And it's because when you're working in a newsroom and you have 50 places sending you press releases, right? You want it in a standardized format as much as possible. That just makes it so much easier for the journalist, right? And at the end of the day, this may come off sounding kind of weird and everything, but like your job in PR is to make it the job of a journalist really easy to do. And the easier you make their job to do, the more likely they are to give you press coverage. And that may not be ideally how journalism should work, but that's how a lot of the world works, right? The easier you make somebody's job, the more likely they are to accommodate you. And so that's the reason that there's kind of a standardization and everything, right? And Haven's absolutely right. You will see some variations, but the key points that she went over today are very much like consistent across press releases that you'll see generally.
If you guys would want, I can send these two that I have to the group email. That way, whenever you are working on press releases in the future, you kind of have an idea of how the format should look, especially for those of you that will be in Pyramid next semester. So
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I will do that for you guys.
Thank you.
All right, Haven, if you don't have anything else to add, Savannah, do you have anything else to add generally right now? I know there's going to be an e-board meeting after this, and we should have some more news to you generally about PRSSA after that meeting.
I did, some of you, I don't know how many of you heard me earlier, but I did have a couple of websites with links to jobs that are currently hiring. Because I know, if you're in a pickle like me, I still have rent to pay, but I don't have a job right now. So I found a couple of different websites, and they keep an up-to-date list of everybody who's hiring, who's freezing their hiring process, things like that. So it might, benefit you guys to go through that. If you need a job, a lot of them are essential positions. So There's that. And then I also just wanted to give a shout out to everybody who joined in the LinkedIn training workshop. I think there were 7 members of Pure SSA who tuned in, which I was really proud of, because as a total, we only had 20 people come. And so I just felt like we had a really strong representation there. And I'm really proud of you guys for doing that. So thank you all for tuning into that event. And I hope you guys learned something really useful from it. So, and that's all I have.
Yeah, and that was, Craig did a really good job on that. And that's really the sort of thing, you know, I would encourage you to participate in, even if it's not a PRSSA event or a PR focused event. It can still be extremely beneficial to you. And Craig did a really good job of showing off some of the more lesser known parts of LinkedIn, you know, and so I didn't get to be there for the entire presentation, but what I saw was very well done. So, you know, just as you're going through your career here, I know some of you are graduating, but some of you are still undergrads. Really take advantage of those opportunities when they come up, because they can really benefit you in the long run. And I think anybody who's looking for a job right now could, you know, it can't hurt to like expand your LinkedIn profile while you're looking for a job. All right, so we will go ahead and end the meeting there for today. For eBoard members, if you will stick around, I'm going to shut this down and then I'm going to start up a new meeting so that we have the full time to talk. But thanks everyone for coming and have a good week.
Bye.